I got a great question from one of our clients recently, which was, how has fatherhood changed the way that you think about slash act on investing? And I sort of thought about that a little bit in terms of the investor that I was pre having kids, and the investor that I have now. And I think there's just been such a huge value shift. And for me personally, probably like a understanding that time actually matters now.
Yes.
And so my approach has changed, and I sort of sat on that question for a couple of weeks. And, today's a little bit different, man. Like, I've sort of wrote down a couple of questions that I wanted to ask you that we haven't talked about. So I'm sort of throwing you under the bus right now.
I'll do my best.
But the question that I sort of had off the back of that was, how has your approach to life and investing changed since you became a dad? Because it's very, very recent for you, and it's sort of fresh. And there's so many people out there that, may not be quite there yet. They may be on their journey to having a kid, or they may already have an established family. And it's just very, very different flavors for different stages of that journey.
Yeah, for real. Like, it is hands down the biggest lifestyle shift that you'll experience. And like, only parents can tell you that. And only parents can relate to that as well. Like, I think a lot of people that are, yet to have kids, or maybe not wanting to have kids, they might see parents and I guess not really understand what they've been through. And I always relate to good parents, like, you could be an average parent and, just have kids living in your house. But, if you want to be a real father and like, raise these children to allow them to become the best versions of themselves, then it completely changes everything in your life. And like, the funny thing is, like, the time perspective is a really interesting one. Like, I think my time horizon changed massively, and that's changed my approach to investing as well. Like, I don't feel as though I need anything immediately, but I am definitely so conscious about like laying the foundations to ensure that I can provide for my family, now, medium term, long term, in retirement, doing everything that I can to set them up in the best possible way, but also, set up future generations of kids as well. Like, that would be the dream for me. So I think that time horizon has been the biggest shift in my approach to life and investing.
It's like gone forward from like, I need to do this now, and there's like this
urgency,
angst almost, and then to actually, I just need to really get myself together for them and make sure that things down the line are going to be better for them than they might have been for you.
Yeah, and like, even though I'm only so fresh into it, like, I'm a very heady guy. Like, I think a lot. I spend a lot of time up in my brain, and it has its positives, absolutely, but it doesn't come without its negatives.
So dirty right now. Very heady guy, and then you like talking about being up in your brain.
So I thought about all of this stuff, like, throughout trying for kids, and then the pregnancy, and then now that Tanner's here and he's 3 months old now, which is just wild to think how quickly that's gone. My approach to life is just, I want to spend as much quality time with Taylor, with Tanner, with my immediate family, with my extended family, and also my friends. So it's just like realizing that those are the most important things about life. And you and I have sort of talked, and like, you've created a calendar and a flow of the week that allows you to do all of these things. Crystal, our sister, has done the exact same thing, where she, I guess you guys have been great mentors and people for me to look up to, because I can see how you both have always put family first and then investing second to that. So,
and you've seen the the good and the bad decisions we made. It's not just investing that I've banged up, guys. It's like being a dad as well. So I was like, it's good when you can see that stuff and learn from it too.
Oh man, no, the proof is in the pudding with your kids. Hey, they're just such angels, and they're growing up to become the most amazing human beings. So I would disagree for sure. But yeah, like, my approach to that is just like, family comes first, massively. Investing comes second, but it's, at this stage of my life, it's a close second. Like, it is really a close second, because I think it's so valuable to give us that time, to give us that freedom, and to give us that capacity to, be able to do that. I think a lot of people that haven't chosen to invest at an early stage of their life, they are forced to work a lot harder for a lot longer because they don't have the market doing it for them, if that makes sense.
Here's a super interesting thing. Like, I look about, because I kind of had kids a little bit younger. We fell pregnant with Summer. By we, I mean Lisa.
It feels like a partnership.
She'd be looking at me right now just going, F you.
You did not have to go through what I went through.
Yeah, you did nothing, man. But, I was already an investor. I think I had 3 properties before we had some. I think you had 4 before you had the little dude. And my experience, though, my stage of life was very, very different. Like, I was a green investor. You're an established investor. I was green in my career. You were very mature in yours. And just the life stages of the things that we'd both sort of done. And so my first 5 years of the journey with my kids was very much working really, really hard to build a career, working really hard at investing, and then transitioning from that career into this business a bunch of years later. And so I feel like that time, even though it was super, super meaningful, all I really did for that period was my family and the business. And I was working hard, like 60 to 100 hours a week back at that time, where I think the gift, especially for those people out there that are more at your stage, where it's like you are more established before you're having the kids, you've been able to go to a place where it's like, well, I know I'm going to work 4 days a week. I know I'm going to start at between 9 and 10 and finish at 5-ish or whatever. And, even planning for the new year, it's like, well, hey, things are looking really good. Maybe we just cut it back to 3.5 days. And so there's pros and cons both ways. Like, I feel like I was sort of a kid raising my kids, but also looking at the way that you've done it, where you fully established yourself. It's like, there's different ways to do sliding into that next phase. But I suppose a lot of people probably listening to this are already where we're both at with kids right now.
Yeah, I would agree as well. And like that, it's funny that you talk about that, because it really leads into one of the questions that I wanted to ask you today as well, that we have talked about, but not so much. And that's why I wanted to bring it up. It's like, it's how do you balance quality time with your kids whilst also planning and executing your business and investment goals? And like, do you completely separate the two, and have you always completely separated the two? So, I guess like 12 years is a long time. It's probably changed a lot over that period, but like, how did it start in the beginning when you were quite young? And then how has that changed over the years, over the decade? And what does that balance look like at the moment, if there is one?
Yeah, like, this as better than me even. Like, as soon as you find the balance, what is required to keep you in balance shifts.
Yeah.
And so it's like, yes, I'm nailing the family thing, I'm nailing the investing thing, but I've let like my mates, my surfing, or my health slide a little bit. And so I remember Hayden in our team a couple of years ago, I remember every once a month we were doing that, like checking in with each other to see where we were at.
Yeah.
And what I realized at that point, which was like 10 years after I have kids, is like, there's no way for me as a father, as a business person, as someone who's interested in health and surfing and soccer and kickboxing, and like, I'm just a kid in the candy store and I love the candy store. I want to be an adult. So it's like, I never have true balance in all areas of my life. But what I'm very, very good at now is going, that's the area that I'm going to focus on for right now, and give that area like 80, 100%. And so one of my best mates and your good friends as well, Mickey Boyle, he said to me like recently when he was up, he's like, it was actually at your wedding, so it wasn't that recent at all, but it feels like it was to me. And he said, dude, it's changed so much since you started this business. He's like, I remember coming up when you first started and you were taking calls 24/7. At that point, it was so interesting and exciting and new, but I had zero boundaries. Like, the way that we structure calendars now is not how it used to look back then. It was just anyone that wanted to talk at any time on any day of the week, whether I was with my kids, without my kids, with my partner, without them, I was just into it. And the progression has been from like realizing that that was clearly not working for me, being that on all the time with the dopamine, the cortisol, the nervous system being banged up, and just my mental health at that time being like fried because I don't know if I was burnt out. I was just exhausted from doing too much and thinking too much. And so now it's much more compartmentalized, as you know.
Yeah.
And that suits my nature. It doesn't suit a lot of people. Like I look at other people in our lives that just blend and they blend effortlessly and really well. And I'm like, man, I wish I was like that. But for me, when I'm in work mode, it requires the same version of myself, but a different version compared to like I've got to be confident. I've got to be authoritative. I've got to be like, this is how it is because people are trusting us to give them $1 million, like confidence to make $1 million decision. Where with my family or my wife, like being that assertive, that confident, that like, this is how it's going to be vibe completely damages the relationships. And then mates just don't want to hear it at all. Mates just want to have fun with you. It's like they don't want to be told what's going on by anyone. You just want to have a laugh and a good
100%.
time. So I really struggled at the start, and I mean at the start for like my whole life till this point. But I'm getting better at it. So there's some of the things that I do, like work phone, the same as you.
But like we know this, as we said at the start of the convo, like Benny and I were chatting off camera before we started. It's like, because we're brothers, you know, we've known each other forever. We know everything about everything.
Yeah, it's like
it's hard, but like we're trying to obviously also do a podcast at the same time and like share these stories. So I think you should divulge a little bit more.
Yeah, because obviously, like, you know, you do something cool that's working. I'm like, what? How's that working? Then I apply it and vice versa.
Yeah, it helps though. Like being very strict with the switching off and the switching on. I think for our personality types, especially yours, but definitely mine as well, it's like necessary to have that compartmentalization and that ability to go, no, I've done what I've needed to do today. I can now switch that off and now focus my energy and attention onto what now matters, which is my family.
Yeah, because I'm a person that can literally get sucked so down a hole that like I could accidentally work for 16 hours every single day for the rest of my life and go, wow, that was a really fulfilling life. Like I actually love what we do and I love helping people. I love investing and I love business. And so it's like, I have to do something to counterbalance that, which is like, remember that I also love freedom, my family, training, surfing, friends. And so it's like, for me, some of the things that we both do is like calendar management. We give ourselves Fridays off. Which is beautiful gift as parents.
Basically, if it ain't in the calendar, it ain't happening.
Exactly. The calendar like runs my world. I don't even think about it.
I've even put my morning gratitude in there sometimes, like morning breathwork gratitude, which has changed a lot since kids. But
yeah, it's tricky to like.
Later.
That's one of my questions for sure, because it's tricky to do self-care well and caring for someone else as the person you're putting before yourself now.
Sorry to interrupt, but like, I've found that having a kid is so much more fulfilling than all of those other things anyway. So it's like, I used to have to do the breath work, the gratitude, the morning like routine just to make sure that I'm in flow and that I'm like operating at my best self. But now taking my son for a walk in the morning and going and looking at the trees and listening to the birds and watching him smile, talking to some of the neighbors over at the dog park. It's like, that is so much more meaningful to me and gives me so much more and puts me in that flow state that I'm looking for.
Yeah.
Better than what I was doing prior to having children.
Yeah.
And that's a cool thing,
man, because even if you think about it from a Buddhist perspective, there's sitting meditation, there's looking at a flower or a tree or whatever meditation.
Thank you, Siri.
Siri's going off. That's picking up.
Oh, no way. That's a little bit big brotherish, eh?
Yeah, that's a long way away to pick that up. And then there's walking meditation too, and it's like, it's just presence, really.
Yeah, and that's what I do. Like, I'll walk and I'll do my breaths. Like, I'll do my big inhales, my big exhales, and like, I'm singing and I'm playing with him, and then I'm chatting to the locals, and it's like, I'm completely in that moment and doing all of the right things in nature, grounding my feet, getting my morning sunlight, doing my morning breath work, being grateful for everything that I have. So it's still all happening. It's just happening in a different yet far more fulfilling way for me personally.
Oh, I love that, bro.
But that was a tangent.
I put that stuff completely out for a long time too. Like all I did was the second I woke up, walk with my kids or go to the beach with them when we're living on the beach. Or in the afternoons, the second I got home, like in terms of how things have changed, same thing, like go for a walk with them. It was just a way to like give Lisa some space, but also for me to like get out of my head and transition to the next moment. And there, at the start, there wasn't as much training or surfing or any of the breath works. I didn't even know about that back then, to be honest with you. And now that my kids are older, it's like enabling me to structure my life differently again, because all of them are at school, whether I'm like, man, I want them at home. But like the reality is they're at school and they don't want to be at home with me. Like two out of the three of them, froth on going to school.
They thrive. They're their best selves.
Yeah, like they're like, we're going away for a weekend, like in a week or two.
Pumped.
It's going to be sick, but two of them don't want to leave. Like they're like, so it's like,
we've been going away so much.
But because of that now, it's like I have like a really low dose morning routine now, which is some prayer, some gratitude and some mobility, which is about 10 minutes of each. And then I jump in the cold bath and then straight up to hanging out with the kids till they go to school. And then it's like, if the surf's good, go surf. If the surf's not good, train. And then my work day starts at 10 now. So I've like really shifted that back so I can have a little bit of family time, a little bit of me time and some training or surfing in the morning, like Monday to Thursday. And then I get to go do the work. And like my calendar now is so structured around years and years and years ago, we started a property management business and it taught me how to break things into tasks. And I think as a parent, this has been super, super helpful as well. Like it's enabled us both to go, here's all of the stuff that should be on our to-do list every day. So let's just whack it in the calendar and let's break the week up into like the big rocks only. And then the secondary stuff goes on to either team members or later in the week when we've got time to do it. And so like, it's just enabled me to go, home's home, work's work. Work phone stays on the work desk or in the car. No emails, nothing like that. No social media on my personal phone at all. And then it's just like, I'm home. And it's like, some days I'm coming in frazzled, the same as every other parent or person without kids. Some days I'm super present.
And now that all three are in school 5 days per week as well, has that helped you create a bit more structure in the week, in the days as well? Like for me, with Tay being on maternity leave and Tanner being such an infant baby, it's tough because you just never know what you're going to get. You never know when you're going to have a good night or a bad night, or whether he's going to wake up a little bit more grizzly or if he's going to wake up feeling amazing. So you kind of just got to roll with the punches in those earlier years. But now that their life is so structured as well, how's that influenced your habits and routines and things like that?
Like our dad is a man of routines and like I think a lot of men are, so is my father-in-law. And like I've talked to my psychologist about this, like actually breaking your routines is super, super, super healthy for you. Like change is super positive, but in an ideal day, man, like being able to chill with my kids a bit or being able to look after myself for a moment, then my kids, then have some fun, then do meaningful work and then spend the arvo with my kids. Like that is a super meaningful day. Like I know there's a lot of people listening to this that aren't quite at the stage where all their kids are in school and it's not that easy to do that, but it's taken a long time and we trade a lot.
Plus work might not allow it.
Yeah, work might not allow it. And we've created a business. Like we could take on so many more people than we do. We work with a super small dose of people because it's like we want to help them and we want to live free lives as well. Like the reason we both got into this game of investing was to create freedom. It was never for me to become super wealthy or have heaps of shit, even though like I've got heaps of shit now. But the stuff that I've got, I love, like surfboards, home gym,
ice plunge,
nice home, ice plunge, sauna. Like I'm like frothing caravan,
nice
like
caravan.
The stuff that I want. And I couldn't have done that without investing either. But it's like I never got in that game for Lambos. I never got in it to be like the wealthiest dude in the cemetery and like bury me in a box. I got into it to have more freedom earlier in life. And I think you're the same. Like, we're so lifestyle orientated. Investing is a means to the end. It's not the end in itself.
No, and it's the best of both worlds. Like, we have always looked at life in a far more holistic approach to living than what I guess Western society would make you believe. And, you know, obviously, you know, it's such an interesting situation to find yourself in, where it's like, you know, we could do so much more, but we both know that more isn't more. Like, it is just going to create...
I absolutely know that more, like, we're both going to get more. So is every person listening to this. Like, don't get me wrong, I want every person listening to this to be wealthy, financially free, and having so much more than they need that they can help every other person around them and on the planet. But more isn't going to make you happier, and it's like the recognition of that like is a big deal.
Yeah, meaningful time with family, like doing the things that you love. Like, this morning we're just so fortunate to have a surf with, you know, 3 of our best mates on a bank to ourselves.
And it's cooking.
After I spent 2 hours with my son this morning as well. Like, it's just so
You
sick.
had a full morning.
I had such a full morning. Yeah. He was up early. But
He must have been up early.
Well, the sun, like, the birds start chirping at like 4:15 at the moment on the Sunshine Coast. So it's like he's up around 4:30, 5 o'clock. So
You're into it.
yeah, but it's nice. It's fine. Like, I'm in bed by 8:30, 9 o'clock every night anyway. So I'm still like getting good sleep, and then get up and at 'em and get the day going. But it's just like having that ability to do those things, and then you come in just so free and fresh and excited, because you're like, my cup is so full right now.
Yeah. Look, I'm literally shining, but it's because of the like mermaid makeup that I wear.
I did. I literally almost clocked in 3 hours. So I'm like pretty sun kissed this morning.
Like the eyes are looking at the wax behind us. You know, my question that I had for you was like, in terms of your mindset and thinking, it's very similar to what you asked me actually. Like, how do you bounce between planning for the future and enjoying the present with your family? Because, you know, I don't mean to say this in a bad way, but I'm going to say it in a fucking honest way. Like, just having kids and a family isn't the only purpose for me to be alive.
No.
And I know that's like, oh my gosh, like we might lose some subs from this, but it's like, it is my number one thing in life, or equal number one. But it isn't the only reason I'm here. Like, I'm here to like have meaningful impact and to like do some other cool stuff as well.
Yeah, it's funny. I've got a very similar one there as well, but we'll separate them. And
so yeah, like, it's like, how do you balance between the planning for the future but living in the moment? Because you're seriously epic at that. Like, being in the present.
It's a tough one. Like, this is where I blend a lot, and this is where I struggle to compartmentalize. And the reason for it is the ideas and the motivation to execute pops up at different times for me.
Yeah.
You know, it's not like with my planning for the future, that doesn't happen for me necessarily during business hours. Like, during business hours, all I'm thinking about and all I'm conscious about is, how can I add the most amount of value to the people that I'm in communication with today? It's not about me, it's about them. And I love that. But so for me, a lot of this stuff does pop up after hours, at night time, and you know, I just do what I can. But I think what you've taught me and what I've taught you, and we've helped each other realize, is the value of reverse engineering to the immediate next step. So that's how I balance it. It's like, to stay present rather than thinking about where I want to be in the future and how I'm going to get there. I do that deep work, and I do that research and that strategy planning.
Like, you've got a place that you're working towards, which is financial freedom.
Yep, and then there's certain projects that come along during the process as well. So I've got this overarching vision and intention for the future. Then I've got projects that are happening in real time. And then all I do is reverse engineer that back to, okay, well, what's this immediate next step? Like, what do I need to do? What can I control right now to make it easier? And if it is a late night thought that does pop up, you know, I just go, well, is this something that I can control right now? Is this something that I can actively work on right now? and it's kind of like that quadrant, yes, no, it always ends up at the same place. Like, it doesn't really matter. Like,
Yeah.
I don't need to be thinking about this right now. Like, unless I can action something, then it doesn't really matter. And
Is it control, anxiety showing up? Is it just excitement? Is it cortisol, dopamine? Is it just like
a free mind, and then something pops up all of a sudden?
Something great just pops in, and it's like, sometimes it's worth following it down the hole, which we both do, and sometimes it's not.
Yeah, and I try not to get caught down that rabbit hole, because like the amount of things that you can actually control is pretty limited. So, there's always an actionable next step, which is do nothing or do something. And if it's do something, do it. Don't dwell on it. Don't delay the inevitable. Just get it done in that moment and make it happen. And by doing that and making difficult decisions really quickly, through experience and through surrounding myself with an amazing team of advisors and community of like-minded people, it enables me to action things quickly and then shift back into what truly matters, which is living in the moment and spending that quality time with whoever I'm around at that point.
I love that.
So I try not to get too caught up in these ideas, but I struggle. Like, I do bring it up with Taylor a lot, and she can sometimes get a bit frustrated with that, because like, I am a big future thinker and planner, and I want to make this dream a reality. Well, I'm living my dream. It is a reality, but I still have things that I want for the future as well that need to be actioned. So, it's probably come across a little bit more like, if Taylor were to watch this, she'd be like, you bloody liar. You're constantly talking about it. You're constantly thinking about it, which I am, but that enables me to just process the thought and then let it go and move on to what really matters.
Yeah, I really like that.
Like, how do you, like, one of the things that I was really intrigued about, because this is a funny question. This is a really hard one. I was talking about it with Josh recently when he was up as well. Like, how do you plan to pass on your knowledge as an investor to your kids?
Yeah, this is something I've been thinking about a lot. So recently I was telling you that one of our clients that you brought on, just that legend, that he's basically the in-house accountant for these 6 families, some of the wealthiest people on the planet. And I sat with him for like an hour and a half 2 weeks ago, and I wrote down like literally 40 questions around that. So he said to me that the first generation makes it, the second generation sort of bangs it up, and the third generation pretty much loses it. And so, because these families are worth like billions of dollars collectively, right? Like, in that stratosphere, a lot of what they're doing is education and planning for future generations, because like, they've created this wealth. They don't want to just pass it on.
And a lot of them have worked their asses off to get there as well. So they don't want
nothing.
They don't want their great or great grandkids to have to go through what they've had to go through to rebuild it.
Exactly. Like, it's very, very, very tricky for the wealthiest, smartest people in the world. So I've been starting to think about this now, because my kids are like getting a bit older, and I've decided that from the age of 15, I'm going to start educating them around finances. So the few things that I know is property and business. Like, they're the 2 things that I really know. And I've been slowly, like, just building my understanding of not so much other asset classes. Like, there's people that are great traders, great commodity buyers, great crypto buyers, but I'm really starting to analyze previous cycles. And I was doing a fair bit of that last night as well, just looking at what happened to silver and gold during this particular phase of a cycle, or what did stocks do in Australia and America during this time. And so what I plan on doing is starting them off with like basically like a trading account, basically, and just showing them that like index funds work. Like, if Warren Buffett said to his, like, in his will, that 90% of his money would go into the American S&P 500 for his wife, if he was to die before her, that's saying that he doesn't believe his team without him can beat the fucking index fund as like the most savvy investor of all time. If he can't teach his team to do what he does, Like, you know what I mean? Like, none of us have a chance.
You don't meet many people that are very successful traders, but you meet a lot of people that have got a lot of net worth tied up to just sitting it in the old index fund.
Yeah, so what my plan is I'm going to create videos on private on YouTube for my family, and like all of our family will have access to like that back end login for the future, and that will have videos around business.
Yeah.
It will have videos around stocks. It will have videos around the cycle. It will have videos around property investing and everything we've learned. And then within each of those videos, like there'll be either a spreadsheet or a Word document connected to it. And it's like, they might not look at it. And I hope that I get to live a long life, and I get to, like, what these wealthy families do is they find like a custodian. Like, one of the children normally has an appetite for this style of thinking, and they invest in that child with the intention that that child will sort of help the others as well. And it's kind of been like that in our family. Like, I fell into it and loved it, then Crystal did, and then you did. We're lucky that all three of us just went, shit, yeah, like this is
Light bulb moment.
business, property just fully makes sense, and now we all like stocks as well. So it's like, I think that's the way that I'm going to approach it, and very, very cautiously and slowly, because I don't want to bang them up. Like, I've deliberately, the only thing that I'm really reinforcing at the moment is you can have anything that you want if you're prepared to work for it. And the other thing that I'm reinforcing is, like, my kids, like, every kid comes to me asking for money all the time. And it's like, they've got a lot more than I had, like, because, like, I want them to, like, have a sick life as well. But, like, if they really want it, it goes on their list for Santa, or it goes on their birthday list, or if they want it in between that, then the only question, I got this off Jim Rohn, is how can you earn it?
Yeah.
So it's like, do you really want it? Cool. Like, how can you earn it? Like, this morning, Summer said, I want to earn $590 to buy all this Mecca makeup. Like, Mecca, man, is just rolling these.
They know what they're doing, eh? The funny thing is, though, like, we went to, like, you can tell that they're already learning. Like, you know, your 10-year-old, when we went down to Brisbane the other week, like, we went and saw Cirque du Soleil, and, like, they've got the gift shops, and there's all these really cool things in the gift shops. And, like, you know, we got a few things for the kids, which was great. But, you know, your middle child, she was like, I am not buying anything. This is all overpriced, and I'm just going to keep my money in my savings and then spend it on something more meaningful.
Harper's like, I'm going to have a massive white mansion. I'm going to have a pink Lamborghini. And she's like, my first car is going to be a pink Lambo.
Yeah.
And I'm like, she wants to go into YouTube now, and she's got the temperament for it, but I want to protect her. But, like, it's just funny. And
she's
like,
also strong enough to get through it. But yeah,
she's just a little weapon. But yeah, it's just, that's what I'm doing at the moment. It's like, so Summer, I'm like, let's just write out a full list of the way that you can easily earn that $500. And then I monsterly overpay my kids. It's not like parents like squeezing them for an hour to give them fucking $3. It's like, I'll do it. And then I make sure when they ask me for money, they always ask high. Like, they've already learned to negotiate, because I'm always pushing back, and I'm like, that's too high. And then they're like, I'm like, what about this? And then they naturally now are all going, asking for more. And then when they push back and ask for more, I give them even more than that, to show that life rewards people that ask. Even when we're at cafes and restaurants, and like younger kids come and like serve them, dump the food, I'm like, what would you guys have done? Like, I'm asking that. I don't know. It's just because I love business.
Yeah.
But I want them to be, I don't want them to have to learn all that stuff from scratch, like 90% of us do.
I think it's teaching them how to bring value to the world as well.
Yeah.
Like, it's a different way. It's not like, how can you do that better? It's like, how could have you done that in a more valuable way? And it's like, if you
care more, show up better.
If you have that mentality where, like, I am here to bring value to the world, like, I care about the world, I care about the work that I do, whether it's emptying the dishwasher, and I should put
really care
Tate through a crash course of how to stack and unpack the dishwasher. No, it's coming back up.
If she hasn't learned now, she's never learning, bro.
She's never learned, bro.
I'm deliberately doing it opposite now.
I honestly think she does, eh?
She would. I would do that if I was her.
Nah, it's all good. It's all good. To be honest, she doesn't really touch it these days anyway. It's my domain.
But I love how much that you enjoy. I would be so lazy I'm so lazy with stacking it that Lisa will stack it now because like I want that dishwashing task off my plate, bro.
So does she. But it's a different mentality, and it's like I don't know how, and that's why I wanted to ask the question. You can create that mentality or when it starts, and like because our kids are far more privileged than the average person. It is one of those tricky things.
There was no Kmart doing sick toys for $9.
No.
It was like $80-$100. There was no a sick skateboard was like $350 when we were kids. A sick skateboard you can get for like $120. I mean, I know there's layers to it, but you can get really good stuff affordable now. Like China just changed the game with labor, bro.
Yeah, it's so true.
So yeah, it's a work in progress. But for me, like I do little things with them. Like we've done door-to-door stuff. We've done like selling your toys. We've done when I always have like cash in my wallet now. And when I see someone that is in really not a good place, like, and there's actually plenty of them around, not heaps on the sunny coast, but actually there is, you just don't see them because it's so bloody like nice up here.
Yeah.
But like every single time I see someone in need, like I'm like, here, like you guys go give them some money and ask them how their day's going. Like ask them if there's anything you can do. Like I want it to be the best thing that I heard, I think, around money to change my perspective was the more you have to give. We're not squirreling money to like hoard it. Although I did do that because like I didn't have any, and like I still hoard it actually because I'm scared of like a day where this all breaks down or something, like in the back of my mind. And that's not really my fears, it's just transferred fears. But I'm trying to change that as quickly as I can to like just help, just give it away, just give as much to other people as possible. Like what would it look like if generations in generations in generations, like theoretically $2 million invested now for 100 years ends up being $500 million. Like what if the people listening to this were like the families that set that up for their future families, and then anytime a kid wanted to go to uni, they got to write a letter and apply for a scholarship and got it paid for? What if private school was paid for? What if the first property, like when you're 30, not the first property when you're 18, you get a 200k deposit and it was gifted by your great grandfather that no one ever met. And there was videos of, hey that guys, like this is me. I just want all of you to live the best life. And it wasn't always this easy. Like we had to bust our ass to get here.
Yeah. I love that.
But yeah, like most likely the third gen just going to rip it all and it's going to break down anyway. So it's like...
it's funny. I was talking to one of the tradies working at my house recently throughout the renovations, and he's like full born and raised Sunshine Coast, like really historic family on the Sunshine Coast here, and I'm like, oh, far out, man, like going back 6 generations. I'm like, that's
a lot.
That's basically the beginning of the Sunshine Coast. I'm like, surely they would have had like a ridiculous amount of land. And he's like, yeah, like they basically owned all of the north side of the Buderim Hill. Wow. And they owned a bunch on the Alex foreshore there as well. Alexandra Headland foreshore, like owned everything. Spots. And, essentially like a few generations ago, they just like one bad egg, sold it all off and, burnt it all. And then now they're all scrimping to get it back together. So it does happen, unfortunately, but it's like, how can we be conscious? How can we make conscious efforts to try and avoid those pitfalls for future generations and have that really big picture view? Like, not as big picture as Elon Musk, but close enough to for our little family.
Mars, this is what I've heard when you.
We got to get up like in 100 million years.
two photos when you walk through the door to Tesla. I mean, to SpaceX, like a photo of Mars empty, a photo of Mars fully colonized, and it's like. That's just great vision.
I thought I had a long-term perspective on life. Jesus, that's intense.
Yeah, but I care more about my kids being kind people. I care more about like instilling values. Like financial is a part of it. Financial, I believe, enables you to just double down on the person you are. If you're like kind and generous, you'll be kind and generous. If you're a dickhead, you'll just be more of an egotistical dickhead.
100%, hey.
And so it's like, I'm not looking for wealth. I'm just looking for like a simpler life. And I already know that the decisions that I made before I was a dad and as an early dad have meant that I've spent 10,000 times more time than the average parent gets to spend with their kids. My relationships with my kids are the same as any parent. They're on and off depending on where the kid's feeling, but like they're deep and I know they're going to be long term and I've done the groundwork and I just love hanging with them. So like the freedom of having a little bit more passive income from investing in property back in the day is paying monster dividends now.
But also like not pushing the envelope too far and being like, no, I need more and I'm going to work harder, which takes you away from being able to spend that quality time with the kids, which means that you don't have the time to be able to build this confidence and these underlying values and I guess ideas about the world. So it's like, you know, finding the balance. Obviously we know that there is no balance, but trying to find that perfect balance between how much do we want as a family or need as a family versus like how much, you know, am I willing to input to achieving that?
I'd sacrifice for it.
Exactly. And it's like just trying to constantly find that balance. And it's like you come and go in ways. Like when you got back from your big trip, it was like, you know, you were back working 60-hour weeks again and like just going
motivated,
hustling and doing what you can again. And then you went, whoa, overcorrected, back the other side a bit.
Whoa.
It was a lot of like, geez, Benny, the business is going great.
Yeah, I know. I was
but hey, how much better is it now since all of that work as well? I'm really proud of the work that we're doing and everything that's happened. Like, yeah. It's
I mean, just thank you to everybody that's listening to this and then booking strategy sessions and,
you know, coming conversations,
having great convos and us to be able to like, you know, help from this, you know, $500-600 million worth of experiences we've had now. Like, it's just so nice to be able to go, you're here, which is great, but I can see how you can get there in half the time and just holding that hand. It's
really, really nice. Hey, like I had this conversation yesterday with a guy who'd, you know, been dealt a pretty shit set of cards, but brought it all back together. And he's in his early 40s and he's like, you know, I've got 20 years until retirement. I just want to, you know, make sure that I've got a good life. And he came through from a referral from a colleague. So he's never watched the YouTube videos or podcasts or anything. And so I took him through the 2 properties to financial freedom strategy and just educated him on like, if you do this, and then if you do that, then this is where you'll be by retirement age. And he was like, I don't believe it. He's like, I don't believe that I can do that. I'm like, you can do that. And it was a lot about, you know, and this is a lot of the work that we do. It's like a shift in mindset and a shift in like confidence as well. And being like, you know, just because your past self wasn't able to do it, it doesn't mean that this current self can't do it. And I'm telling you that like, this is such an achievable goal for you based on the situation that you've worked yourself into. And, you know, we're here to support if you want the support. And it was just like the same thing, light bulb moment for him. And he's just like, holy shit, like even though I wasted a decade of my life, I am still going to live the life of my dreams. And it's just really nice that we get to do that.
That's beautiful. Yeah, I was catching up with Raj. He just messaged me and he was listening to one of the podcasts from a few weeks ago that must have resonated with him. And he said like, man, I'm just so grateful that 7 years ago I found you, that I bought those 3 properties with you guys. And he's literally doubled his money. He's changed his life. He's gone from working like 60 to 80 hours a week as a corporate to running his own mortgage broking business. And he's got a kid now, like, or maybe a couple of kids. And he's just living his version of his best life. And it's like, that's the cool thing. It's like me and you are so different, even though we're brothers and great mates. It's like everyone listening to this is going to be so different. Your version of your dream life is going to look different to ours. But it's like, the common thread is if you slowly and safely get started based on best practice, I'm only 15 years into this. Like, give me 45.
Yeah.
Like, the people listening to this with their own homes or an investment or thinking about buying their first one or second or sixth or whatever, like, we haven't even had enough time to see it work. Like, give yourself 2 full cycles and, you know, watch your money triple.
Yeah.
It's a crazy thing.
Like looking at what you wrote down from your research last night, it's just like, if you can learn how to trade these cycles well, which we have, and we're constantly trying to figure out how we can be better for ourselves, for our families, but for our clients as well. It's just like, gosh, it's so valuable to have that awareness.
And I say this and like, it's so easy now after 15 years and 35,000 hours.
Exactly.
And it is simple. Like, it really is simple, but it's new. It's like a new language at the start, and that's what trips people out. And then there's so much misinformation and different versions of the same truth. And obviously there's big money in real estate, so it attracts a whole lot of people into it that, like, often, like, the hardest part about being in this industry is just
Competing.
just being around the people that are in this industry. It's like,
Yeah, I
I
know.
love people. I love helping people.
I get
love
all of
being a
those
part of it.
ads, you know, like on YouTube and
Same.
on Instagram and Facebook, and it's just cringe as.
Just fear or Lambos. I'm just like, stop it. Just help people.
Yeah.
Anyway, my last question for you was, what does the dream life look like now?
We're so fucking similar, eh? It's hilarious.
Has this changed since you became a dad? And you sort of partially answered that before, saying that you're living it, but you're working towards it. So what are you living now that's representative of that dream life? And what are you still, obviously you're super young. You've got another 70 years plus of life. Like, what excites you for the future as well? Like, what's pulling you forward in the direction of your dream/family goals as well?
Yeah, I don't think anything's necessarily changed. Like, my fundamental goals are still those fundamental goals of, like, I want to own my own home plus a couple of great investment properties outright.
Yeah.
As just like my base level, like, and you know, I'm setting myself a goal to achieve that by 40 years of age. I started at 25, so that'll be a 15-year journey.
Yep.
Whether I hit it or not doesn't matter to me at all.
It's just hey, I'm moving towards which means I have to keep saving and investing and doing stuff.
Delaying gratification, not spending silly money on silly things, like being disciplined.
I'm going to do a walkthrough of Simon's backyard in a couple of weeks. That's another video.
They're big goals, and that's what's allowing me to live my dream life right now. Like, I've always wanted to have a sauna and a cold plunge, and I've always wanted to have an epic home gym. And, like, we've spent far more money than we should have on that home, and absolutely the money that I've spent on that home, I could have gone out and bought another 2 investment properties. But
Honestly,
realized
bro, the happiness that gives, you'd spend 10 times more. Like,
Oh,
if I had have known how important
day.
that was, you'd do it way earlier too.
every day I wake up, like every afternoon I get home from work, like, it is just my little oasis, and it's something that I can work on. Like, I love my gardens and my lawns, and it's just something that I get to, like, work on over time. Yeah, I need to grab that. And like, so my dream life at the moment is the fact that I'm 32 years of age, and I only have to work 4 days per week because I've made great investment decisions, and I've given myself and, you know, seeked out help through books and, you know, coaches and everything like that, mentors, to increase my skill set as a investor and as a buyer's agent, so that I can reduce those hours and I only have to work 4 days per week. You know, we've got those agreements, and it's like, I've got specific goals, and if I hit them, then I do get to have that 4 day week. But if I don't, then I still have to work a full week. And it's like, I've got myself to a point where I'm so great at what I do that I have the ability, and I'm happy to admit
I like that,
that I can have this life. So it's like, I only work 4 days per week. Like, I can shift my calendar. So if, like, for example, this morning, surf is pumping, and it's like, I don't have to get into the office at 8:30 in the morning to get ready for my 9 o'clock day. It's like, we can just delay the day for a little bit. I'll pick up a little bit more time this Friday, which is totally cool, because it allowed me to have this morning with you and our friends in the ocean doing what we love to do. But that's freedom. That's choice. Like, being able to do that and say that, like, random day, random time, it's cooking, I'm getting out there, I'm doing it. So that allows me to live my dream life at the moment. The fact that, you know, when I was saying this as well recently, it's like, now I was looking at booking a trip down to the Gold Coast, because the WSL, the World Surfing League, is going to Snapper Rocks on the Gold Coast next May. And, you know, it's the best beach outside of Pipeline to watch the world's best surfers, because they're like 15 meters away from you.
Yeah.
And I was looking at it, and I was looking at some accommodation, and it's like, there was some cheaper options a little bit further away where you'd have to get into your car to drive and then park and pay for parking to watch the comp, or I could just spend a little bit more money, and I'm not talking much, like $300 extra to get an apartment a lot closer. And it's like, that is freedom. That's me living my dream life. I don't have to scrimp and save and sacrifice to go and enjoy that event. I can actually feel that I'm completely a part of it. Like, I'm staying in a hotel where a lot of the surfers are staying at as well. So like, catching the lifts up and down, I'm going to be chatting to the world's best surfers, which is like a little exciting thing for me as well, because these are the guys that I look up to.
Go to the gym, jump in the sauna. It's like,
so I'm just living that dream life, and I don't need any more at all. Like, I'm so content with where I'm at. Like, if nothing changed, I would still be happy, and that's what allows me to live this dream life. But I'm an ambitious person, and I've got these skill sets that I want to take advantage of to create a better future for myself and my family. And I've seen it work for other people, and I know it can work for me if I continue just maintaining the habits. Because if I'm happy right now with my lifestyle and where I'm at, it's just a no-brainer to kind of continue maintaining those habits, maintaining those behaviors, and continuing to invest in good quality assets, because I know the byproduct of that is going to be more freedom, and then the capacity to help other people so much more as well. Like, I'm not really at that point where you are, where I can give back as much as I would like to, but I'm certainly on that journey now, and it starts to shift that focus from me and my family to like me and my community, me and the broader population. So I don't know if that answered the question at all, but that's sort of what popped into my mind.
nah, it's awesome, man. It's just a beautiful thing. Hey, like, I think it's so tricky to get to the point that you're at now, because it requires so much discipline, consistency, delayed gratification, and focus. But once the habits go from this is work to implement a savings habit, an investing habit, a training habit, an eating habit, it's like, once that all of that stuff is no longer new and it settles, and then over time, like my brain, your brain, every human brain is just wired to make things easier. It's the same with investing. Like, what I think we do better than anybody in this industry times 10 is teach people to fish. And I think I spent 15 years learning what I can transfer to a client in 3 months. And it's like, a lot of those people end up coming back because of the results and the relationship and the support. But it's like, there's the ocean, man.
Yeah.
You'll be fine for the rest of your life, because you know exactly how the ocean works right now. And there's nothing scary out there. You know
it's a complete blueprint to how you can become a successful investor, and the information is there to use.
Knowledge, skills, team, strategy, planning, structure, process. It's a series of things, like anything else that anybody listening to this is already great at. And that's the cool thing.
So what does your life look like at 80 years of age with your kids and your grandkids, and who knows, maybe even your great-grandkids by that point in time? And on top of that is like, how did investing influence that?
That's a really good question, hey. One of my actual weird goals, man, is I've always wanted to live for 3 centuries. This is why I've always liked to you. I'm like, man, being born in 92, you're a really good chance of living for 3 centuries, which is always, that was a goal of mine when I was 5.
2,200 or 2,100, that'd be cool.
Yeah, like, so I have this weird belief that I'm just going to live a really fucking long life. For a whole bunch of weird reasons. Like,
it's funny that you say it, because when I wrote 80, I actually go, shit, I should have written at least 100 for Ben.
Right at 100, man.
But, it's just doubling your lifetime from where you're at right now. And I just feel as though you will not be operating at this current capacity by that stage of life.
No, like, another thing that I look forward to is, like, I love the idea of, like, I've always had this weird thing too. Like, I want to be a great-great-great-granddad.
Yeah, 3.
Like, I don't know why. I'm just like, which means my kids are going to have kids
in their 20s.
16 for every generation. It's like, actually, I don't really
Ben's courting summer already.
It's like, I've arranged something. That's
brutal. I hope you never watch this summer.
Yeah, sorry, Sam. But like a great life for me at that stage would be like, all I do is help other people.
Yeah.
Like the only reason, like the Chinese have this beautiful way of living. You've probably heard it. I heard it. I was having a mad chat with an Uber driver.
Sick.
And he was like a Taoist.
Sometimes though, hey, they're just the best combos.
I was like, dude, he said some crazy shit. But at a time that I really need to hear it too. But he's like, the Chinese way is the first 50 years is the masculine, like the ambition, the chasing, the setting up yourself, the setting up your family. The yang, and then it must be the yin, like is the second 50 years, which is the spiritual, setting yourself up to help other people and to go internal and to achieve the highest form of yourself before you pass on again.
Be at peace with that time.
Be at peace. And I was like, that's a really cool way of looking at it. And then like there's a lot of Western thought that's like, moving into service, particularly from 40 years of age, is really, really, really good for your long-term happiness and continued like investing business success.
Yeah.
So for me personally, like a great life would be like, imagine all of our families like still catching up and together. Like that would be amazing. Like, I don't know what sort of travel you're going to be doing at 80, but like I'd love to physically be there for my kids and my grandkids.
Bro, can you imagine how good transport's going to be in 40 years?
Yeah, bring back the Concorde, eh?
Dude, the Concorde's coming back within the next 40 years, eh?
Something fast.
We'll be going up into space and it'll take us like 5 hours to fly to Europe.
Yeah, that's actually crazy when you
like that'll happen. It's got to.
For me, like
so we'll be traveling.
I want to look back at my life. Like it's funny, man, because nothing that I want at that age is about what I'll have at all. Like when I look back at that age, and I write this down every year, as you know, like I'm 100 years of age today, and I'm so grateful to like give myself the North Star to pull me forward. But like, I don't want to be going into my 60s or 80s going, I had something left in me that never got to express itself. Like I listened to some of that motivational stuff and it's like, my version of hell on earth is not becoming the person I was created to be. And that puts a lot of extra responsibility on me. But I believe it's not my responsibility to become that either. It's like my responsibility is to follow the intuition and the callings and the things that come up, and then just show up and show up and show up and show up 1,000 times more than the average person does. Because for me, it's like I actually survived a hell on earth version of myself. So it's like, well, shit, I already have tasted like living in the fire. I got burned, but it also like cracked me open, and I was a new seed. Like
I love that.
And so like I get excited about how much impact in a positive way. Like you and I have a personal goal of giving $1 million from this business to charity. We're at 140K now.
Yeah, we're gonna have to reset that goal pretty soon.
Which is sick. Like we were at 0 like 2 years ago.
Yep.
Like that's inspiring to me. Like it's not even about the money. It's just about, well, what would it look like if we were the dudes that gave, like in my will, 50% is going to charity. Like I'm not accumulating what we're accumulating for us, which is going to be a small amount. And like I'm accumulating it for like my kids, like the future. Like I want to be doing pull-ups, push-ups. I remember in my old gym, there was like a 75-year-old Russian dude that came in every day and did like 30 pull-ups. And I remember at my kids' gymnastics recently, this 90-year-old dude, and he was doing like handstands on the parallel bars and then giving himself vertigo and falling over. It was actually so funny.
But he's still got the goal. I got to do it.
He's like balancing on one leg and jumping and like so vibrant. And all of the other oldies are like just trying to get off their chairs. And I'm like, what would it look like if we kept moving? What would it look like if we kept smiling? What would it look like if I did breath work for 70 or 80 years every day, and gratitude and prayer, and like trained? Like I get so excited, and I think we're just so lucky because of our dad. Yeah. Because he's just the ultimate old frother. Yeah. Like he lives like a 20-year-old still. Like his biological age is like 20 years below his physical age because of how well he looks after himself still. And he smashes piss and everything. Yeah,
like, loves a beer.
Like it's just I'm just excited.
We are blessed to see that as well. And like I think just being in this generation as well, where like we do have access to podcasts and YouTube and you know, you're looking at all of these biohackers and these like longevity experts, and the cat's out of the bag. The science is there. It's proving it all, that these things have a massive positive impact. Like the reason that both you and I could justify spending all that money on the cold plunge and the sauna was because we know that based on the science, if you use this stuff the right way, it's going to add years to your life.
So I'll just say a few things that like I've probably heard from you, and this isn't science. Maybe this is just
Bro science, like
bro
Chris
science,
says.
fully 100%. Was he? I wish I had some guns for it. But he like, so if you sauna like 3-4 times a week,
Do you want me to say it?
Yeah, you say it because you know it.
Yeah, like I love
It may not be
listening
like
to
peer-reviewed research back.
No, but like this is all based off Peter Attia's research, Dr. Rhonda Patrick's research, and these guys are like doctors. They're experts that have studied this for decades.
They're learned men, as I'd say in Set Brothers.
They're learned. So like saunas, if you do it 4 times per week for like minimum 5 up to 20 minutes at 80 degrees Celsius, 4 times per week, it can reduce your all-cause mortality by up to 40%. And it can reduce your risk of cardiovascular disease by over 50%. So like these are the two, all-cause mortality is literally all things outside of a accident. And like that is just massive to think about that, like 40% reduction in all-cause mortality by just putting yourself in the hot bath. And then like the ice bath, I don't know too many of the physical benefits. I know that like if you do it right, it can change white fat, bad fat to brown fat, good fat.
I'm feeling it. Being in there every single day is changing me, and I can't explain it, but I'm like, maybe it's just the monster dopamine hit that it gives me.
Well, that's the thing, the endorphins, the dopamine, like the positive neurotransmitters are just incredible, and you're just on a high, natural high from the ice bath. And I find, and you probably find the same, like my sleep is so much better from the sauna in the evenings as well.
Do you know a funny one that I heard? That guys in relationships end up living 13 years longer than people not in relationships at elderly stages of age. And
I wonder why.
Women's life expectancy shrinks
down.
massively.
Yeah,
like,
I have seen that.
Are always laughing because she's like, "You're killing me."
Yeah,
literally.
you're literally
like,
killing
babe,
me.
Come here, an extra 13.
Yeah, that's so funny, eh? And I heard that guys that have daughters live longer as well for some reason. They've
got to protect them.
Yeah, or they look after them in the older ages or something like that, where boys are just like, "You're dead to me. You're dead to me, Dad."
It's like you've passed your physical peak and on the new line in the gym here, and it's like, just crawl out to the bush.
See you later, old man.
But yeah, like I don't know, I froth on this stuff, and so it's like I don't know, I'm the same as you, and I'm the same as everyone listening to this still. We care about a better future than the past. I think the reason anyone listens to something like this or invests, like the reason I became an investor is because I could see a better future. I have baggage like every human does. Like everyone has stuff, but it's like, I'm not gonna, how long are you gonna keep carrying it forward for? It's like at some point you just got to go.
Accept it.
Everything has doubled since the last GFC. There's people that have been waiting for the next one since then.
Yeah, what's that
In
guy?
fact, the American stock market's done 400% since then.
Harry Dent.
And then he goes, yeah, I've heard things. So it's like, you know, I suppose property is exactly the same as your health, and it's the same as your relationships, and it's the same as business, and it's the same as everything. And it's like there are certain rules to the game that aren't rules for everyone, because like hopping in a sauna could be horrible for someone. Going for a run could be horrible for someone.
I'm sure it's not for everyone, yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, and investing in a $3 million property in Bondi, when interest rates go to 7% and they don't let people in the country for a couple of years, could be life, like bankruptcy threatening to someone.
Yeah, but in 20 years, that $3 million property in Bondi is going to be worth 6.
And so it's like, I just think the rules of the game in property are simple. Like, learn to understand timing, build a team of advisors, create a plan before you start. That was my biggest mistake. I knew I was going somewhere. I just didn't know where it was. And because of that, I just went.
This is something worth diving into a touch as well. And I don't want to spend too much time on it, but like we have a lot of people coming into us that really lack the plan, and thank God they're booking in the strategy session, because it allows us to start working on building that plan before they do take action. But there's a lot of people that feel as though they've missed the boat, just because, you know, so much has changed since COVID, and they're just like following the crowds, where it's just, you know, that has always been the smartest way to make investment decisions, is with a plan that's, you know, based on the fundamentals, it's based on history, that may have been helped to be created by somebody that's like an expert there as well. Like, going and buying anything, anywhere, at any time is just never the smartest thing to do. It is so important to like slow down to speed up and make sure that you put the plan. It only takes a day or two to put in a good plan.
Yeah.
It's not like it's going to take you weeks or months to do that. You just need to give it the time, the focused time to figure that out.
Yeah, like capital cities, major regional markets, you know,
Houses,
big
good
blocks of land,
townhouses close to the city.
quiet streets, good quality houses with good bones that are low maintenance, tenant ready, and then teams of advisors, like good quality people that care, that also have shitloads of experience in what they do. And, you know, we'll go into this in heaps more detail in future episodes, but I get excited about the future. I get excited about every person that I speak to, because when I speak to someone, I can see their potential and I can see where they can be in 15 years from smart decisions. And, you know, you talked about this recently, like stacking evidence, that idea of like stacking, I've done this, like, and I know this works type vibe. You can see it in your surfing, the training, the business stuff, you're investing, and it's like, I stack proof. I'm 15 years in now, and I've made 10 times more mistakes than any single person listening to this will ever make in their lifetime as an investor, because there wasn't people talking about this back then. Everyone was just like, it's typical 80s, 90s, just go for the sky, like just greed, like all over them. It's just nasty. It's gross.
What was the movie from back then?
Wolf. No, not Wolf.
With the, oh God.
Do you remember that?
Both escaping us right now. We both know what we're talking about, though, aren't we? Where Greed is Good. What's that movie?
Greed is Good. Yeah.
That like,
they
you know,
remade it, didn't they?
Yeah. Yeah, with Shia LaBeouf. But yeah, that type of shit was just hectic.
Yeah, but it's like, I have enough proof now to go that even banging my head against the wall and not knowing what I was doing and doing it without a plan for the first like 8 years and making mistakes and not having the right team, the market is so forgiving and it still works out. And then getting the right plan and seeing how quickly you can just change your stars. Like, I think about Dave, one of our clients who's a printer, earning up 80 to 120K a year. From the day that we met him till now, like, his whole world's changed. And I'm like, if his can change that much through following a simple plan and checking in a couple of times a year to make sure he's on track, taking some action without us, taking some action with us, like, it's unbelievable what the average person with a combined income of 120K could do over the next 15 years for their future.
Yeah.
And it's like the path goes to, by the time we're all there, it's going to be 70, retirement age, maybe 75. So that's what the path looks like. So it's like, I wanted to change that path and have the decisions that we both have now at this phase of life while I'm young enough to enjoy it. I couldn't think of anything worse than jumping on, I'm going to still try and do it, but like jumping on a jet ski at 80
Exactly.
versus jumping on a jet ski in your 30s.
You know,
it's a different experience.
You know, like, you travel when you're that age and immobile, and this is based on where people are at right now. It's like, you're going on cruises. You know, you're going on these like really safe, easy travel experiences where it's like, you don't work your whole entire life to then go and do that. Like, you know, you want to be able to go and climb Machu Picchu. You want to be able to go and like walk up the pyramids, or like go on.
Do they let you do that still?
A kayak, I think so.
I'd like to do that.
In private groups, like go on a kayak trip through like the beautiful, like, what are those mountains that pop out of the water in Thailand? Like those types of things. They're like adventures. They're like real experiences, not just playing bingo on a cruise. So it's
You
like,
haven't been on a cruise, bro, because it's all about the eating and the drinking. it's really just a floating bender,
you guys actually had a sick one, eh? Like, where you had like basketball, ping pong, and like
tennis. Like, I was playing like between ping pong, tennis, and basketball. I was doing 6 hours a day, and then an hour in the gym and the sauna.
Yeah.
And then having.
I would love to do that for like 3 days.
Honestly, Brad and Jackson came down, and then they flew home because they didn't want to get back on it.
Yeah, different horses for courses.
Yeah, I was definitely the youngest person on there. This was 5 years ago by 25 to 40 years, but I had a
It's something to be conscious of as well, and like why it does make it so important to try, if possible, to get started as soon as you can to give you that freedom. And it's, for the average Australian, you're probably thinking 15, maybe 20 years to get to where you want to be, but that's like the end goal almost. But what you and I are hopefully helping people realize is you don't need to wait until you've achieved the end goal. You can live your best life as you are moving through that journey as well.
Yeah, like I wanted to bring this up, and you'll be hearing this a lot more moving forward, but there's financial freedom, which is the point where you've achieved what you wanted to achieve.
You've got the passive income.
You've got the passive income coming in whether you go to work or not. And that, for most people, is where they see choices beginning. I believe choices begin at the time you achieve financial peace. So the difference between the two is financial peace is as soon as you've got the assets or the plan to achieve financial freedom in the future, you're done. And so it's like at that point, we used to encourage people when we didn't know the difference between the two to like have this accumulation period where you bought
This
the stuff
is
that would make you
sacrifice,
free.
hustle, discipline, delayed gratification.
Because that's all we both knew.
Yeah.
That was the only way that I knew how to do it based on what I now know. Now it's like,
Definitely
I know how to
works
show
out.
someone how to do that and not change their lifestyle at all. So it's like, why not do both? But it's like, that period is hustle, it is discipline, it is consistency, it is having a clear plan, it's having a team, and it's making stuff happen. For some people we work with, they can achieve financial peace in a year, 6 months. For other people, that might take 10 years like it did for me.
Yeah.
But as soon as you've achieved that point where you don't need to earn 100 to, like we've got clients coming in at the moment, man, that are earning the sky. Like I can't even believe how much money some people earn. And I'm like, and you've got one asset and you're working 100 hours a week. They're like, how long do you reckon it's going to take? I'm like, if you actually listen to me 3 years, 6 months, but because you're not going to, like 15 years.
Yeah. Everyone's got their shit going on.
Me too. And I'm like, I actually do say that to some of them. I'm like 6 months and I'm like, if you were to do this, I'm like, are you prepared to do that? And they're like, hell no. And I'm like, well, me either, which is why it's taken me 15 years.
Try and balance the goals with the lifestyle.
Exactly. But I suppose for most people, like let's say the combined income's 200K per year and you're starting with your own home or no property. I don't know anyone that can't do what you kind of did or I kind of did in about 3 to 7 years in terms of buying a home and maybe a couple of other investment properties with a clear plan. And then as soon as that's done, you don't like your career or industry, change it.
Yeah.
You don't want to work 5 days a week anymore, change it. You want to work 6 days a week, do it. Like you want to take your holidays when the kids are off for the rest of your life, like for their school holidays, do that.
This is financial peace.
Yeah,
Like,
you came to me recently because you've been in financial peace for a while, but you've fully realized you're in financial peace now.
Yeah,
like,
the
there's a
birth
difference
of both
between achieving it and knowing it.
Yeah, made me realize that way more.
And we just recently were like, well, let's plan for the new year. What do you want? So that we can build a business around like what you want to do. And you're like, well, I feel like I want to do this. And I'm like, sweet,
Let's
do that.
design it.
And part of this is just asking for it.
Yeah.
Like asking, accepting that that's okay for me. Like so many people I know, myself included, how long ago did I really achieve financial peace? And how long did you watch me struggle to transition from, and you still do, like go through waves of like, the person that got me to financial peace is not the person that will enjoy financial freedom. Because one is like only looking up and moving forward, and the other one needs to rest, relax, focus on their values, their families, and the other things. And it's like the hardest point is transitioning from financial peace and having what you've always wanted now instead of going delay, and then one day you die.
I think it's because it's two very different people. Like they're really two very, very different people. And me and Hayden have talked about this because both of us, when we, I guess, really reached financial peace was at a very similar time, even though he's a bit younger.
And very early.
But both of us really struggled with that transition because we're both for 10 years, just read every book, listened to every video and podcast, like subscribe to all of these emails,
plan,
like
talk.
Save, like invest. Like you're doing it, and then you build habits that get you to where you are, and then once you reach financial peace, because you've built those habits, it's hard to break them. And you have to break them to realize. And it's like, oh, well, I'm so used to doing a project every 6 to 12 months, whether that be buying a property, building a granny flat, renovating a property, you know, whatever it might be, investing in crypto, like all of these different things. You're so used to doing projects, and that becomes sort of your identity. And then when you reach financial peace, you got to really have a good hard look at yourself and go, okay, well, that got me to where I am, and I'm grateful that I made those decisions, but I don't need to operate like that anymore, because I have every
10 out of 10 all the time.
You don't, and you really need to peel back those layers to just, you know, find that peace. But honestly, man, like I would say 3 years ago, I actually reached financial peace. But I don't think I realized it until about 3-4 months ago.
Yeah.
And that was a 3-year transition of just being like, okay, slow down, like stop doing what you felt as though you had to do to get here. And I think, like, I personally think it's a really valuable part of the process. Like, I think every single person needs to sort of go through that period of you know, hustling and making sacrifices and delaying the gratification and building these good investing and saving habits, because then, you know, it's
they
a very
carry through too. Like, it's not like you've stopped doing those things. It's just you're not looking at your spreadsheet once a week. You're not constantly planning in your notebook. You're not constantly thinking about
looking at realestate.com and just like all of these things.
You're just doing the one thing. Like, you've got more going on right now than you probably had at any point in the last 5 years.
Yeah.
It's just the way you do it. It's like, and
very good at delegating.
Peace, yeah, exactly. And that's, you become the king of Delhi. Lisa calls me the Delhi now.
Hey, that's the way to do it.
But it's a funny thing. It's like, and I'm excited for everybody watching this on your own journey to financial freedom and peace, because it is so worth it. Like, that's all I can say. It's like, and I've been through it, good and bad, and I would not change a single thing. I've loved every single part of it at that phase. And will I go as hard in the future as I've gone in the past? No, but that's a young woman, young man. And I don't mean physical age. It's like your stage of your own journey.
Yeah.
It's like if you're starting at 50, then you're approaching it with that like young mentality. If you're starting it at 20, you're approaching it with the same approach. It's like there has to be a period of getting it together. And then once it's together, just going, man, this is epic. And what else do I love? And then it's like all the other values start kicking back in. And it's like, it was that laser focus for a period. And then like it starts going broad again. And I've heard Dennis Waitley, the US Olympic psychologist, team psychologist for like 23 years, talk about that. Like the focus it takes to get to where we all want to be financially and personally. And then how broad you can go for the rest of your life post that. And I think we're both living examples of that right now, which is so exciting.
Yeah, there's so many cool hobbies that we can explore because we got the time to do it. And, you know, I think putting yourself back into the beginner mentality is a really humbling and good experience to have, even though I hate it because I hate being shit at something. Yeah. It's still good to, you know, go back to that beginner mentality and like try your hand at something new, because it takes you out of your comfort zone and it's like ignites that fire under you again.
Without a doubt. But no, I've loved this today, mate. Like, it's been a really good potty, and it's just coming off the back of a great surf as well. I just
into
love
a great arvo. 100%. Nah, stoked.
If you're thinking about buying an investment property in the next 3 to 6 months, then the team and I at Pumped On Property would love to offer you a one-on-one strategy session. To book the session, all you have to do is go to www.pumpedonproperty.com and click that free strategy session button. Now, in the session, we'll talk about exactly where you are right now, where you'd like to be longer term, and educate you deeply on the Australian property market. You can then take that information and go and absolutely smash it on your own, or potentially become one of the small number of clients that we work with each month. Either way, we look forward to continuing to help you build your property portfolio with confidence on your journey to financial freedom.